Welcome to the Hour of Empowerment. Today we are still in Season 1, the Self-Awakened Personality. We are in Episode 3 and we're going to discuss about the process of self-awareness formation, steps you should take, and also case studies of great self-awakened personalities. Before we proceed, however, I would like to briefly revise Episode 2, especially those of you who missed it. Don't miss next time. We discussed excitement in life versus self-awareness. We emphasized that we need to first seek and pursue self-awareness because other things, including excitement in life, will follow. We also took some reality checks to know where we stand and also self-measure to see where we are on the spectrum of self-awareness. We also discussed about some self-assessment tools to know our personality traits. We did this all, reality checks, self-measurement, and assessment to do what? To spot our uniqueness because it is our comparative and competitive advantage, and it is the source of our greatness. We also discussed about how once we know our uniqueness, we need also to express ourselves in terms of writing down our purpose statement. If we have a business or organization, we need to write down the mission statement of that organization. We should also express ourselves in terms of tagline, unique and catchy tagline for ourselves, and also motto and slogan for our organization. We also discussed how it is very important to craft a very unique brand for ourselves and also for our organizations. Today we're going to discuss about the formation of self-awareness, the process, and also the steps we should take, and the case studies of great self-awakened personalities. Let's start with self-awareness formation, the process. There are 6 phases of self-awareness formation. We need to discuss them one by one, but they are stunned, disturbed, embraced, expressed, experienced, and solidified. Let's first discuss about stunned. True self-awareness follows when we are stunned, shocked, or surprised, because we have beliefs about almost everything. So it's very difficult for us to bring in anything that doesn't align with the already existing belief system. It's very difficult to penetrate the individualist's fortified state of consciousness. We don't question and challenge the pre-existing beliefs. That's why stunning is very important. Unless we are in a turning point, we don't really begin a self-awareness journey by challenging the status quo. The next phase is disturbed. If the dose of stunning is enough, we may start to be disturbed and troubled. Why? Because there are confusions, doubts, and conflicting thoughts because there are old guards. And also, you have just self-discovered a lot of new insights and truths. So the two gonna conflict, and that leads you to confusion, doubt, and conflicting thoughts. But if you are lucky enough to settle your confusions, clarify your doubts, and also resolve your conflicting thoughts, you're gonna go to the next phase. The next phase is embraced. You start to develop new belief system around the new discovery. And also you internalize it, and confidence and contentment and excitement around the new discovery start to build. And also you start to continue to like where you are in life. But the self-awareness formation may stop here unless you start to express yourself in terms of the new discoveries. Once you believe in the new discoveries, what you're going to do? You're going to express them by writing your purpose statement, tagline, and brand. And you start to communicate with the world, starting from where? The people around you. The next phase is experience it. Now, when you express and start to live your new realities, you transform yourself from what? From self-discovery to self-mastery. You start to walk the talk, and you enjoy the results of the newfound self-awareness. You live up to the expectations of the new discovery. The last phase is solidified. When you express and also experience your new discoveries, you start to face challenge, resistance, roadblocks, and if you don't pass this challenge, your self-awareness may not be solidified. But if you pass this challenge, your new discoveries start to solidify and cemented. You may stay in this phase for a very long period of time, unless you are stunned with another high form of truth. If that happens, you start from where? From step 1, from phase 1. But you should not wait until you are stunned. Circumstances should not initiate our self-awareness formation. That's because we have to become proactive and initiate multiple life cycles of self-awareness in the different aspects of our life. We should also develop holistic self-awareness, and at this stage you may ask, what are the steps, and do we have case studies? You're right, yes, there are steps. I call them the 4 R's and the 3 S. Let's talk about the 4 R's. Reflect, read, reach out, and record. The 3 S are align, act, and assess. Let's talk about the first step, which is reflect. You need to take time from your busy schedule and invest on your self-awareness. You can't really buy your self-awareness. You can't have a quick fix, or you can't really subcontract it to somebody else to do the job for you. You need to audit your attitudes, your behaviors, and styles. Lock up yourself in a room and be alone to reflect, think, and meditate. Find out your blind spots and also dig deep and understand those latent potentials and also those things that may sabotage your success that are at subconscious level. You may use some assessment tools while you are reflecting. And then you go to the next step, which is read. You should not reflect in vacuum. You need to empower yourself by reading, because knowledge is power. You read about your subject matter, the methods you should use, and read the biographies of your role models. The next step is reach out. Reading creates more questions than it answers. That's why you need to reach out to your true self, the inner voice, and your source, and other people. People like your parents, your friends, colleagues, and coaches, so that you may get answer for your bugging questions. Let's talk about the next step, which is record. You need to write down the results of your reflections and readings, and also the answers you got from asking and listening. You need to write it down, and through the process of writing down, what's going to happen? It prints in your mind and in your subconscious. And also, the more you read, the more you write, the more it sinks. The more you will not forget it. Of course, once you write it down, you're going to come back again to read it and review where you were. The next step is align. Once you self-discover and once you start to write down your discoveries, what's going to happen? You start to see some misalignments. Maybe your mission is not aligned with what you're doing. Or maybe who you are is not the same and aligned with what you're supposed to do in life. But if you are truly aligned, what's going to happen? your education, your job, and your relationships gonna be aligned with who you are and what you should do with your life. At the end of the day, what's gonna happen? You're gonna have purpose-oriented life, purpose-oriented business, purpose-oriented learning, earning, and relating. The next step is act. Now, once you have aligned your life, once you have the plan, what's next? You need to act. How do you act? Maybe you need to go to school, or join an existing organization, or open your own business or organization, or change your career. This is the most challenging phase because you're going to be tested. Tested whether you believe in what you have discovered. And you prove that by what? By acting. For you to transform yourself from your place of enslavement to your place of freedom, you need to take bold actions, practical actions, appropriate steps, and risky ventures. You need to take actions to shine and serve the world. The next phase is assess. It's very important until you self-actualize yourself. You need to assess yourself, monitor your progress. It's not enough you just to discover and sit there. You need to assess, you need to evaluate yourself. It's almost similar to software upgrade. For example, if you just buy the first version of a software, you're not enjoying the full benefit that comes with that software. It's not. What you should do, because the company is continuing to produce new updates, and you need to upgrade your software to enjoy it. The same is true here, because once you discover who you are and what you should do with your life, you need to upgrade yourself. You need to assess yourself. You need to see if there are some loopholes, some gray areas, and so on and so forth. And also, it's very important to assess because you may lose who you are in the process. Until you reach your highest self and become one with the truth, you need to continue to assess yourself. Now, let's talk about case studies. I have two great individuals who are self-awakened. Steve Jobs from the corporate world, the co-founder of Apple Computer, and also Nelson Mandela from politics, the former president of South Africa. Let's talk about the iconic Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs, he revolutionized many industries that affect our life on a daily basis. Because of his insights, focus, and the ability to see ahead of the curve, he will remain one of the men and women who shaped the 21st century. He had been a mentor for many industry leaders, such as Facebook, Oracle, and also he was an advisor for President Obama for his second campaign. Why he did that all? Because he was a self-awakened person. Steve Jobs, however, never knew who he was and what he wanted to do with his life when he was in Reed College. He dropped out. He went to India and spent 6 months there to search himself, to find out the truth about who he was and what he should do with his life. And then he came back from India. He found out what he should do with his life. Then he opened his first company in his parents' garage, Apple Computer. When you see his achievements and also watch his videos and also listen to his speech, you could be able to see that he knew what he wanted and what he should do with his life. That's why he advised graduates of Stanford in 2005. He said that if you haven't found what you love yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all the matters of the heart, you will know when you find it. Let me repeat it. If you haven't found what you love yet, keep looking. Don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you will know when you find it. Steve also expressed himself very, very well. He uniquely identified himself by wearing black turtlenecks and worn-out blue jeans. He branded his 3 great companies very, very well. Apple, Next, and Pixar. Steve Jobs, not only he was aware about himself, he understood life. In 1994, Steve gave an interview to Silicon Valley Historical Association. And in that interview, he shared how he views life. Let's watch the video.
The thing I would say is, when you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it. That's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.
Very amazing and very interesting video. He also advised the graduates of Stanford by saying that they should live an original life. He told them that your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noises of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. And most importantly, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. Steve also encouraged his people and his team members to live a bold life. He inspired his team members by saying words like this one. For example, we are here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even be here? We are here to put a dent in the universe. Otherwise, why else even to be here? He also said, it is more fun to be a pirate than join the Navy. Steve Jobs also knew his weaknesses and blind spots. His biographer, Walter Isaacson, observed that despite his arrogance, he could be self-aware. Steve knew other people's strengths, weaknesses, and susceptibilities. Many of his friends accused him of using this knowledge to manipulate others. That's, of course, unfortunate. Steve knew his weaknesses. He should have improved those counterproductive behaviors, but he didn't. That's unfortunate. Here is how his mother figure, Anne Bower, said. He was self-aware, but that didn't always modify his behaviors. Now, what are the lessons we learn from Steve Jobs? Steve Jobs wandered in search of his identity. He spent 6 months in India asking tough questions. But we don't need really to wander around and go to India or Japan or South Africa to find ourselves. We can be wherever we are and spend time to understand who we are, what we should do with our life, and also express ourselves, because Steve Jobs was not only self-aware, he expressed himself very articulately. He studied life, poked it, and changed it. The same with you. You should not just accept the status quo. You need to question it. You need to change it. Let me finish the lesson from Steve Jobs by reading what President Obama said on Steve's death. Obama said he was fond of saying that he lived every day like it was his last, because he did. He transformed our lives, redefined entire industries, and achieved one of the rarest feats in human history. He changed the way each of us sees the world. Let's now review the extraordinary story of Nelson Mandela. Jailed for more than 27 years, the extraordinary stories of Nelson Mandela represent persistence, hope, optimism, and triumph. He outlasted apartheid, witnessed its demise, and put lasting mark on how one man's determination and selfless acts of courage against evil can change the world. Mandela was not just a hero for South Africans. He was an iconic representation and symbol of freedom around the world. Mandela received a lot of awards, including the 1993 Nobel Peace Prize, and he was enlisted among the 100 most influential people in 2004 by Time magazine. President Obama, in his foreword to Conversation with Myself, he praised Nelson Mandela by saying that he has done so much to change his country and the world that it's hard to imagine the history of the several decades without him. He did this all because he was self-aware. He was an enlightened leader, not a blind guide. He was also understood his potential at the early stage of his life. Here is what he said. There is no passion to be found playing small in settling for a life that's laid down the one you are capable of living. He discovered who he was in jail. He dug deep and understood who he was while he was in jail. Here is his letter to Winnie Mandela in 1975. He said, incidentally, you may find that the cell is an ideal place to learn to know yourself, to search realistically and regularly the process of your own mind and feelings. But you don't need to wait until you are jailed and confined in a cell and forced to think and reflect. You can start wherever you are. Mandela also was self-critic. He analyzed his weaknesses. Here is the interview he gave to Oprah Winfrey in 2001. He told Oprah Winfrey that in my younger days, I was arrogant. Jail helped me to get rid of it. I did nothing but make enemies because of my arrogance. He also wrote a letter to Winnie Mandela dated on June 20, 1970. He said to Winnie that, I must be frank and tell you that when I look back at some of my writings and speech, I am appalled by their pedantry, artificiality, and lack of originality. The urge to impress and advertise is clearly not. Mandela also studied his environment and other people. Here is one of the testimonials from one of his jailmates. He said that he sizes up other people, particularly those that he has to engage with, often in a hostile sort of way. He sizes them up very carefully, and then he addresses them in the way that he thinks will make the most impact. Mandela also studied the history of South Africans, white South Africans, and also their language. He knew his historic role, and he was a great leader who understood his people. He said that to truly lead one's people, one must also truly know them. What are the lessons we learn from Mandela? He had a holistic self-awareness, and you should have too. He understood his roots and from where he came from, and he also could be able to live with people who are not from his race and clan harmoniously. He knew what he should do with his life and where he was going. He was not delusional about his future. He self-critiqued himself, invested time to know others and his environment. You should also learn from the lessons of Nelson Mandela and enjoy life as he has enjoyed. In conclusion, I'd like you to understand that there are some phases you should pass for you to develop self-awareness. The process requires 6 phases. The first is stunned. The second is disturbed. The third, embrace. The fourth, express. The fifth, experience. The sixth, solidified. But we should not wait until we are stunned by circumstances. We need to understand the processes and the steps we should develop self-awareness very consciously and deliberately and proactively. And I gave you 7 steps, the 4 R's and the 3 A's. What are they? What are the first 4 R's? Reflect, and the second one, read, and the third one, reach out, and the fourth one, record. What about the 3 A's? Align and act and assess. We have also reviewed the lives of 2 great self-awakened individuals. From corporate world, Steve Jobs, and from politics, Nelson Mandela. We could be able to see that these great individuals knew who they were and what they want to do with their life. They studied their environment, other people. They also changed the world. You deserve to change the world. If you understand who you are, if you serve the world with your strengths, you are a candidate to become one of the great world changers. Up to now, we have discussed the theoretical aspect of self-awareness, some of the assessment tools we need to take, and also some case studies. Now this is time to have a live interview with someone who is self-awake. Next week, don't miss it. Bring your friends and watch as you learn from the life experiences of an interviewee. Until we see each other next time, thank you very much for watching and have a good time. Thank you.